Hey everyone, Dave here, and we're in the second part of a multi-part series where we are designing a Magic the Gathering style token. In this case here it's a goblin that we're making him look kind of like a Scottish Highlander. With all due respect to my Scottish friends. And so we're working on designing this going from, in the last video, which the link should be in the description, going from an idea to a sketch, and we're going to take this sketch to something more of a rough or first draft. We have to speed through some of this just because this part takes a little bit more time than getting to the rough ideation. And from the last video, we've gotten to this point, and we're going to presume that if we submitted this to our art director, they said, go for it. And we're going to continue our artwork based on the go-ahead. So let's get started. One of the things I like to do, and this is like a Photoshop thing, I like to use what's called a not my Wi-Fi settings. I like to use what's called a color lookup table, and in Photoshop, it's a layer, and sometimes this helps me get started by imbuing some tone. First winter might be kind of nice. And it might give us a nice pale blue to work on. Let's start with that one. That's actually pretty nice. And then I'm going to also use a new layer on top of that, which is going to be an overlay layer. Sometimes I use a color layer, sometimes just different layer modes, and it's okay to try out whichever one you like. There's not necessarily a right or a wrong way to do this. Right now we're doing what would be in a traditional painting. This would be the underpainting. And we just want to get an idea of what kind of colors and values are going to be in our painting. Nothing too committal. At this stage, we're just painting in some color to bring in our landscape and our subject matter into a world that has color. That's all. Just some color to bring in color. I have no idea what I'm saying. That's a babble. And one of the things I'm kind of nervous about with putting him in such a green world is that goblins are typically kind of greenish looking characters, which is one of the things I was always interested in, because I know like it's their behavior, it's their personality that they put them in there. But in Magic the Gathering, goblins are green. Why are they always associated with red magic? But I know it's because of their behavior, their mood, their temperament. It fits better with that. But for those of you that are fans of Magic the Gathering and know what I'm talking about, something to ponder. Okay, so we've got that there. I think we're going to give him, because this will be a red creature, I think we're going to give him like a red hilt. And we may impart some sort of a tartan for that to make it to make it a little more Scottish. Certainly what I don't want to do, because I know of like the historical and family significance, I don't want to build on an actual tartan that might offend somebody. So we may keep it really light and like general, as to not do something that might be culturally insensitive. So actually we want to make it more of like a blue color, because it's going to be in a fair bit of shadow. And the skin, I'm kind of concerned with going too green. I think we actually want to build for more of like a blue cast, a bluish green cast. And then green it up where the highlights hit it the most. Because again, I don't want it to, I'm worried about like there not being enough separation between the background and foreground colors. So I think if we go from like a cool green to like a warm highlight, that might give it some separation, but we may have to reverse it also. So we're just going to kind of see, because right now the environment's pretty cool in its tone. So maybe we use warmer highlights. I don't know. Ooh, excuse me. I typically like cooler highlights, so we may have to warm up the environment some. In fact, let's just play with that real quick. So again, another overlay. We're going to use like a rich, warm yellow. And actually I'm going to change my chalk brush to like a soft round. And right now it's just going to go like way too warm. And then we're going to dial it back, because we're just trying to heat it up a little bit, that's all. Use kind of a warmer, richer red. And the shadows there. More of a warmer green. And if this doesn't work, I just get rid of the layer. And yeah, I think actually that works a little bit better for this scene. To go, because we go with the cooler, like I think it adds a really fun base. Like it's really neat to have like that cooler green, and it feels a lot more like, I don't know what I imagine. I've never been to Scotland, but I imagine like the moors on a Scottish wetlands would be like, but I can stomach all that real easy. That's really nice. It's really fun. It makes the colors, and we can cool them off in like little spots a little bit. But I think that's actually pretty nice. It's a pretty nice trade. Actually need a little bit darker, don't we? The water, darker on the edges, and then yeah, and then we can start to like build up our I'm tempted to leave his hat gray, but I think that the red might be an important detail to establish, kind of make him pop up off. I like the gray as far as like like if I was dressing him. Got some details in there. I want to balance between the warmer shadows and the cooler highlights. Not familiar, generally speaking, when you have highlights in a certain color range, your shadows will be the opposite. That usually gives you a pretty believable lighting condition. you don't want to do is get in the habit of going to black. So all these areas that I have that are black, we need to turn them into more of like a heavy saturated warm color. And not black. So like these really like rich red browns for the vest. And then we'll go to a cooler, almost like a yellow color. Maybe it's too yellow for the highlights. And we'll kind of balance them in between as needed. And there will be some skylight hitting that vest. We want to really illustrate the fact that it's leather, so it'll get a little bit more reflection or shine from the sky. And since it's a much weaker light, it'll come off as kind of like a pale blue. I think we could get like a mahogany kind of color if we go more into that magenta range. Create a little bit more of like that mahogany color. Maybe have to go a little bit darker and more saturated than that to really get the effect. Like this really pale blue. And kind of go to town and really get color spoken for. We do. And that way we have to do less actual like color work on the exposed parts of the leather. The highlight versus the shadow will tell us everything we pretty much need to know about the color. And that's a fun little trick to get like a lot of really good volume in your lighting. That something I had to learn. The parts facing up towards the sky get the most of that effect. And since this kilt will be fabric, it's not really going to shine that much. But it'll catch a lot more illumination than pretty much anywhere else. And for the shirt, I think we went the wrong direction with it. I think we need to go instead of that blue tone, which is fine, but I think we need to undo some of that blue. I think we want to go with more of a tan in color. And then the shadows will be much more saturated. This is a point where I would recommend, if you haven't already, do some studies on fabrics and how they fold and they lay. That way you're getting your look and design right, because it's really easy to get the wrong folds in clothing. Be wary of when you do gold and things like that, because a lot of times you'll goof yourself up and make a color it's like way too saturated, not saturated enough, way too bright, way too dark, or something in between, because gold has a lot of really interesting caveats to how it works in light, and the different types of gold, or brass even. Do yourself a favor when you're doing your artwork like this. Make sure you have plenty of like overlap and overhang, and include that. It adds a lot of volume to your work. So like here, we want to illustrate that the cloth is going over the knee. Whenever you can do that, it really does help to illustrate the heft and the weight of the material, and it gives a little bit extra volume and dimension to your artwork. Starting to get a little more dimension in that face. And remember that the eyeball sits in the socket, and then the lids go below and above, and depending upon how much lid you want to show can say a lot about the character. Just remember to include the volume of where the light fits in that lid to describe the eye socket. And it's amazing how like this blue color really sells the green. we do need to make some decisions as far as like the lighting and how like dramatic we want it. I kind of like the idea of giving him what I like to call the Disney princess lighting. That's where he's kind of being lit from the angle, and it's more of a spotlight, very dramatic. We can actually make the atmosphere a bit more gray and gray looking. A little too strong. Background's gonna desaturate against the atmosphere. That's what they call atmospheric perspective. The further back it goes, the more it's gonna absorb whatever the atmosphere color is. It's almost entirely purples and blues, or whatever your atmosphere color is. But certainly, like the higher up and further away you go, what's gonna happen? And normally I'm not real big on using foliage brushes, but for the sake of getting started, I think this is okay. Get some texture in there. That's all we're trying to do, just get a little bit of texture. Any little mishaps as far as like overlapping or underperforming with filling it out, not a big deal, because we'll fix it all later. With these grass brushes, if you keep these strokes in, the key is to vary up your colors as you go. Certainly your values, and then also your size. Your shape and your size has to change a lot as you go. And all of the rules as far as like shadows and light, like those things have to be obeyed for the most part. So definitely mind how you're setting this up. It may work out better for you to add your shadows for your grass areas on a separate layer on a multiply mode. That way you can paint the shadows over the grass and it doesn't mess up your grass blades. This can be done for a lot of different situations that are similar to that, but since we're talking grass. Zoom in on the face. I'm still using my chalk brushes from earlier, and I'll probably be using several similar brushes, and I'm just going to be adding in just some minor details at this point, because we're not really talking about rendering so much as we are just kind of placing everything where it needs to go. We want to get the expressions, general values placement, colors, all that kind of stuff pretty well nailed at this point. But rendering, not so worried about just yet. And don't forget that eyeballs are probably not going to be very pure white at all. They're probably going to be a little bit more flesh colored. And so in this case here, the goblin being green, we're going to just add a little bit of that green cast in there. And the shadow on the eye, be a little bit more of that green cast, but we will go over with our really dark saturated colors as well. Kind of push and pull on those values a bit. We want a pretty desaturated nose on the bridge, and then as we get to the nose here, we're going to go with a really like warm greenish quality. Kind of like how in humans it tends to get a little more red and saturated towards the end. And then we'll go to those cool blues again on top. And that should give them a little bit more of a realistic look. We're probably getting a little too dangerously close to doing like a rendering here, but I do want to establish the face, the angle, the expression, and the look, so as long as we don't get too bogged down in the details, I think we'll be okay to keep pressing on this one. I think we need to make sure that we widen these lips, and the jawline needs to head back quite a bit, come to more of a point. So the chin will poke out a little bit more, and it'll be a little bit pointier than would a human's be. We may even want to like enlarge the eyeballs a little bit more. So I think goblins just tend to have just larger than human sized eyes. So we may have to put that in and paint that down a little bit just to make it work. Do that, some of those values. Keep rolling. I think that's going to get us started pretty well right there. On the chin a little bit more. Yeah, don't be afraid to have something wrong from your first design. You can always paint it out. You know, you're not committed until it's been submitted. And even then, if it doesn't work, you'll get it back. So the job's done and you've been worth what you've been paid. And then as far as the water's edge is concerned, probably going to want to use like a brush that's particularly flat. I actually have pretty cool water brushes that do those kind of effects that you'd want. This is more of a finishing touch, but it'll help me smooth out the image for the time being. To kind of develop the edges a little bit better for me. And the same rule pretty much applies here with the water as it does for the rest of the background. To the point where I'd probably pass this around to any of the other stakeholders in the project, or maybe back to the art director, see what they think about the look and feel of the overall colors and design, make sure that it's still in where it needs to be. Depending upon the art director, I may withhold that and just keep going, but this is what I would consider at this point to be a rough draft. It's far beyond the initial black and white sketch that we had before, so this was our rough sketch, and we really built up our layers to get it something that I feel like represents what something more similar to the final product will look like. And from here is where we will get into rendering and getting all the final details, which is what we'll cover in the next video. So thank you for watching. You can get the links to the first video in the description below. You'll also have links to my social media and my live streaming channels. All that is in the description as well. And until the next time, thank you so much for watching, and paint through the pain. We'll see you. Bye.